Hiya folks, Piglet here in the 𝙈𝙊𝘾𝙄𝘼, an engine that this winter we're converting into an oil burner, a big engineering project for us. And this sort of story started back in 2023. We started to realise that we've got to find an engineering solution for a lot of our line side fires and the problems that we were having with that. And there was a great opportunity through an invite through FMW Solutions to go out to America in the Sunshine State in Florida to actually get a chance to operate and understand how an oil burning locomotive works. And it's always good to get out there and try these things in the flesh and do a comparison to find out, could we make this kind of engine work on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway? There's lots of different things when it comes to oil burning, as well as the infrastructure that you need to support it. There's also the setup of the engine and then the competence of training people on how to use it. So there's lots of kind of things you've got to consider on a project like this. But it was a really useful trip. I learned a huge amount and they were very welcoming, and I got to travel hundreds and hundreds of miles across the US sugar network. They have like a freight network that they move the sugar cane, they bring it in and out the fields in massive container wagons, and then it all gets loaded onto lorries. So it was a really interesting and useful exercise, and I came away thinking, we can make this work at the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. So while I was out there, I took some video and I thought you guys would like to see it, and it'll give you a better understanding about what an oil burning steam engine is all about. So here we are, we've still got what in effect is like the warming fire. So that the burner is set pretty much on the minimum. And we're a couple of hours in now. The firebox side, well, I can still hold my hand on it. So we haven't got a burner that's absolutely ferocious. It is equivalent to a warming fire. Really, really controllable. I can still hold my hand on that after 2 hours, but it is just coming through warm now. You know, I can feel it. But literally, there's just a light haze at the chimney. Really, really clean. And this is running on diesel, on gas oil. And in the tender, there is actually 2 tanks. So if you want to put in the main big tank, if you want to put a thicker viscous oil in and warm it up, you can. And then they have a smaller tank on the back and they put the diesel in. This week, this next few days, we're just going to be running on purely diesel. So it's the same in both tanks. But, you know, if we do this, we do the same. You want 2 tanks so you've got the opportunity to light it on diesel, because doing it on thick viscous oil will be challenging. But that is spot on. Really impressed so far. Super clean burn, really easy to light, no mess, no wood, no paraffin. It's just really. So this is your fuel supply to your burner. That's your regulating valve there. You could like your throttle for the flow rate of the oil. There's also what they call the torpedo heater, which is essentially a pipe round the pipe here, which is lagged, which you can give a final heat, which there's a control up in the cab. So you can give a final heat of the oil so it doesn't cool down from the tank and you're using a really viscous oil. But it's really controllable. And then you've got an airline supply here, which is actually running off that diesel over in the distance over there. But you can use any standard airline supply, and then that just comes through and there's an isolation valve here. And what they say is when they're converting back onto steam, they'll knock the air off, and then the fire will go out and they relight it on steam. You don't try and keep the fire burning when you're doing the conversion. So get it nice and warm, get it up to 50 pounds. Turn it off, turn the fire off, disconnect the airline, and then start it on the steam. But yeah, so far, super impressed. So just thought I'd do a little video on the controls for the firemen while the cab's quiet. So you've got a blower here,
This is your oil control valve there, which has got really fine adjustment. And that essentially, it's just a nice ball valve underneath that regulates the flow of the gas oil as we're burning on this trip. We're burning essentially red diesel. This is like day 4 and we haven't topped the tank up yet. And we've done quite a lot of mileage. So in terms of being able to actually, not have to fill it every day, you've got really good range. And I've got notes of all the measurements of the capacity of the tank. So yeah, so we've got oil regulating handle, blower, and this is your atomizer. So essentially when you're firing, you're balancing the atomizer pressure, which is registered on that gauge there, versus the amount of oil that you're putting in. So you need to open them steadily and proportionally together, and then same back down again when you want them to lower it off. And as we're sat here at the moment, we just leave it ticking over, half a glass of water. Pressure's pretty much up there. It's 180-pound boiler. So when we get going, when we're running it, it's just sort of drawing out of here, out of this station. We leave in an hour's time. I'll put the sort of initially get it up to about 10 psi on the gauge, and then open the oil. And then once we got up to speed, I then get the atomizer up, just working steady at sort of 10 mile an hour. I have it about 15 psi on the atomizer, and I start bringing the oil handle round. And then when we sort of get up to 20 mile an hour, I've got about sort of 30 psi on the gauge, and again bringing the oil round. And then when we're working really hard, when we're accelerating up to 40 mile an hour, I have the atomizer round to about sort of 60, and the oil control again further open and tweaking it with the fuel atomizer as well. We don't need to worry about the torpedo heater, which is like a final heater for the oil system. We don't need to worry about that when we're running on diesel. The tank heater, again, we don't need to worry about that on diesel. Blowback blows back into the tank, and the auxiliary air, the far one, is for when we've got the airline supply going on a morning. But other than that, you've got an injector steam handle there, water handle down here. It's all very straightforward and very controllable. So yeah, I'm just going to start bringing it around now to fire it back to 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝙄𝘼. So that's about 45 minutes at about 40 mile an hour. So I'm just going to start prepping the fire now, bringing it round and getting the water topped up to about 3/4 of a glass of water. And then again, as he sets off, I'll start to bring the atomizer up, add the fuel. Don't really seem to worry about dampers too much. There is one, but it doesn't seem to be used. But we're pulling about 450 tons on this train. So it's a fair weight for a 28,000-pound tractive effort. So there are times where we're working pretty hard, but it's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's well looked after. Anyhow, there you go.
So here we are in the 𝙈𝙊𝘾𝙄𝘼, and as you can see, it's starting to look quite similar to 148 out in Florida. We've got the oil control valve here. This is the main one that sends the fuel to the burner. And then we've got the manifold here with all the different controls on that we use. This being the blower and this being the atomizer. They're the two key ones. So it's really starting to come together now. And from a fireman's point of view, it is quite different because you spend a lot of time sat down. Now that might sound easy, but actually operating this giant steam-powered flamethrower, there's more goes onto it than you think. And your relationship and working together with the driver is quite different from a coal burner. So there's a lot of training to do on that and getting the crews trained up and competent to be able to operate this engine. But I'm really looking forward to it, and we are really getting close now. And as you can see, it looks really cool. Fire hole door's different as well. And this little flap here, this little hole, that's where we set that so that we can see the fire just enough so we can see how bright it is. And we also, when we're firing these, we also use our other senses as well as, you know, being able to see what's happening. We also use our smell, so we can smell when the engine's burning correctly. If we're over fueling, if we've got too much oil and not enough atomizing steam, you can smell that. So they're quite an attack on the senses operating one of these. They're quite a unique beast. But again, it's something really exciting and something we're looking forward to getting the hang of. But we're getting really close to having this finished now. It does lack a seat because I ain't firing this sat on that water handle there. So we need to put a nice seat in here. But other than that, it's coming together. So here we are, 2253's tender, and this has been now changed with an oil tank in it rather than the coal space. So a significant change, although actually when you look at it, not everyone will notice. But this is a fuel tank. It's got all the pipes and fittings and connections to go on that connect it to the engine and then ultimately to the burner. But fundamentally, it's still a tender with its water space and now its fuel space. It's just liquid and not coal. So yeah, this is a good development. We've got it back. It's sat just off the engine, so the fitters now can start to work out how they get them connections between the two halves lined up and to draw in and get everything set up. And then in the coming weeks, we'll put the two together for the final time. So here we are at the front end of 2253, and there's work going on here as well as part of the oil conversion. We can adjust the front end drafting. We can make it much sharper because we aren't worried about pulling all the particles through and ejecting them out the chimney. So there's a new chimney itself, there's a new petticoat, and there's a new blast pipe as well. So a lot of work's going on in here, and they're in the final stages of putting this together, and then we'll bolt the front back on, put the air pump back on, and then it'll look more like it should do as an engine. So yeah, we're getting really, really close now, exciting times. So thanks for all your support and watching the video. I hope you'll get a chance to come and see this engine operating in 2026. For us, it's going to be certainly an exciting time, getting it through all them trials, getting the crews trained up. So yeah, it's a real exciting period for us and a new development to make the railway able to run in them hot summers. Thanks for all watching.